You know, there's this comforting lie we tell ourselves about football.
Right.
We always say, any given Saturday. It sort of implies that the sport is just random. Like it's just a roll of the dice and chaos reigns supreme.
Yeah, that's the cliche anyway.
Exactly. But if you actually sit down with the data from weeks 3 and 4, which, by the way, we have spent the last 48 hours doing, you realize that's not quite right. It isn't random at all.
No, not at all. It's actually ruthlessly logical. I mean, that's what makes it so fascinating to dig into. We aren't just watching isolated games anymore.
You're watching patterns.
Precisely. We are watching identities solidify. We're seeing exactly why some dynasties stay on top and why others, even with all the 5-star talent in the world, just can't seem to stop tripping over their own feet.
That is the perfect way to frame it. Weeks 1 and 2 are for, overreaction.
Oh, massive overreaction.
But weeks 3 and 4, that is when the truth actually comes out. So for this deep dive, we have a massive stack of sources to get through. We're pulling from game recaps, statistical breakdowns, dynasty previews.
A lot of ground to cover today.
A ton. And our mission is pretty simple. We need to explain the unexplainable for you. We're looking at the why behind a massive 33-0 winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at why a powerhouse like Alabama has a very specific kryptonite. And why some coaches just can't seem to win the big one despite having all the star power you could ever ask for.
Right. We need to unpack how a team can average literally video game numbers on offense-breaking records for efficiency and somehow still lose the football game.
It's crazy.
Or why a coach would turn down a massive prestige job at a place like Nebraska to stay at a smaller school, and why, looking at the tape, that might be the smartest chess move of the entire year.
Let's dive right in then, because I want to start with the number that completely jumped off the page at me immediately. 10.1?
The Alabama stat.
Yes. The Alabama stat, they averaged 10.1 yards per play against North Carolina. It's absurd. Now, help me out here. If you tell me a team gains a first down basically every single time they snap the ball, I'm going to assume they won by 30 points.
Naturally? You'd think it was a blowout.
But they lost. For the second year in a row, Coach Ben and UNC took down the Crimson Tide. How does the math even work on that?
I mean, it sounds completely impossible, doesn't it? But this is a classic example of what we call volatile efficiency.
Volatile efficiency. Okay, break that down.
See, Alabama plays a style under Coach TJ that is totally feast or famine. They want the 50-yard bomb.
They want the highlight reel.
Exactly. They want to be on SportsCenter. And when they hit it, that yards per play average skyrockets. But think about what that actually does to the flow of the game.
But if you score in 2 plays, you're off the field immediately.
Right. You score in 45 seconds, which is great for the scoreboard, but terrible for your defense. Your defense just sat down, maybe drank some water, and now they are right back out there.
Getting worn down.
Exactly. And Coach Ben understands that dynamic perfectly. He didn't try to out-athlete Alabama. That's a losing game. He dragged them into the mud. He turned it into a possession-by-possession dogfight.
So it's really about rhythm then.
It's about control. UNC won the time of possession. They won the turnover battle. And crucially, they won in the red zone.
Right, because the field shrinks.
Right. Alabama might get 80 yards in 3 plays, but if they stall at the 10-yard line or they turn it over, those 80 yards are just empty calories.
That makes total sense. It's the difference between accumulating stats and playing actual winning football.
Yeah.
But we have to give credit to the personnel for UNC too, don't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Because you don't just beat Alabama with a scheme on a whiteboard.
No. You need the guys on the field who can execute it under pressure. And UNC's quarterback, John Treadwell, the sources we looked at literally said he grew up in real time during this game.
That is such a great line. Grew up in real time.
It completely fits the tape. I mean, he threw for 250 yards.
And 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns. Yes, he threw 2 picks, but if you watch the tape, he never flinched. Not once. Every single time Alabama punched back, he had an answer ready.
And it helps that he had a massive safety valve in Tyler Breida.
Oh, Breida is just, he's unbelievable.
He looked like an NFL player dropped into a Saturday college game. 5 catches, over 100 yards, 2 scores.
He is a total matchup nightmare. When you have a quarterback like Treadwell, who clearly isn't scared of the logo on the other helmet, and a receiver who literally cannot be covered one-on-one, you have the recipe for an upset. UNC is officially a problem for these SEC giants.
So is this a sky is falling moment for Alabama, or is that being too dramatic?
I don't think it's panic time yet, but it is definitely pattern time.
Pattern time, I like that.
Yeah, losing to the same coach the exact same way 2 years in a row. That tells me Alabama has a structural issue. They really struggle when they can't simply out-talent you.
When the game slows down.
Exactly. When it becomes about grit and situational management, third downs, red zone execution, they start looking really vulnerable. Coach Ben doesn't fear them. He hunts them.
He hunts them. Wow. Okay, let's pivot from a team that is clearly struggling with its identity in those tight spots to a coach who knows exactly who he is. We need to talk about Colorado State and Coach Moo.
This is probably my favorite storyline of the entire week. It defies all modern coaching logic.
Just to give you all some context here.
Yeah.
Coach Moo was offered the Nebraska job. That's the Big Ten.
Yeah.
That is massive money, a national brand, historical prestige, everything a coach supposedly wants.
It's the pinnacle for a lot of guys.
And he said no. He turned it down to stay at Colorado State. And then what does he do? He goes out this week and just absolutely dismantles South Alabama, 45-14.
It totally validates his decision, doesn't it?
Really does.
Think about it from his perspective. If he goes to Nebraska, he's the fixer. He's the guy brought in to clean up a massive mess that someone else made. But at Colorado State...
He's the architect.
Exactly. He is the architect. This win against South Alabama showed exactly why he stayed. He has total control, and the roster is built perfectly to his vision.
And the absolute star of that show was Abdul Thomas.
The closer, 10 carries, 88 yards.
But 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns on 10 carries.
That is efficiency. That just makes my head spin. Every time he touched the ball, it felt like he was finding the end zone.
It's situational dominance. CSU didn't get cute in the red zone. They didn't try to outsmart anyone with trick plays. They just handed the ball to number 25 and said, move them.
And they moved them. The team averaged 9 yards per play overall.
And Marcus Whitehair was totally uncoverable too, right? 102 yards receiving. It wasn't just a win. It was a flex, a total statement.
And defensively, it felt like they just suffocated South Alabama.
Total suffocation. They forced 3 interceptions as a defense.
Including 4 total picks thrown by South Alabama's quarterback, Rashid Reed.
Yeah, he had a nightmare game. And this really highlights the flip side of that architect point we were making. South Alabama and Coach Jokey, they just aren't built for this weight class yet.
One of the recaps described their offense as a survival tactic.
Ouch. Survival tactic. That is incredibly harsh.
It's harsh, but you look at the stat sheet and it's true. 122 passing yards.
You cannot beat a heavyweight machine like Colorado State when you are just trying not to drown out there. Coach Moo is building a legacy, not renting one, while Coach Jokey is still trying to find a quarterback who can just reliably complete a pass downfield.
Well, speaking of legacies, we really have to talk about the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Or maybe the 33-0 gorilla.
The unstoppable force, Coach Parlay at Arkansas.
33-0 over the last 2 seasons. 2 straight national championships at 2 completely different schools. One at North Texas and now one at Arkansas. It's almost boring at this point, isn't it?
I know what you mean. We just expect them to win every single time they step on the field.
And that is the danger for them, right? Complacency. But looking at their roster and the stats this year, they seem totally locked in.
They haven't missed a beat.
But we have a massive collision coming up. Because Arkansas is playing, guess who? Colorado State, the architect versus the king.
This is absolutely the game of the week, maybe the game of the year so far. Vegas has Arkansas as a 6.5-point favorite.
That is a significant number.
It really is. It basically says, look, we know CSU is great, but Arkansas is just on another planet right now.
Break down Arkansas for us briefly based on the previews. What makes them so hard to beat? Is it just raw talent or is it scheme?
It's ruthless surgical efficiency. Their quarterback, Ray Bada, he is completing 74% of his passes.
Wow.
6 touchdowns, only 2 picks. He simply doesn't force anything, and you know why he doesn't have to.
Because he has Orlando Rich standing right behind him.
Exactly. The engine of that offense. Rich has nearly 400 yards and 8 touchdowns in just 3 games. They just lean on you until you physically break. And their defense is incredibly underrated, too. They just swarm and choke teams out late in the game.
So if you are Coach Moo and you're walking into this matchup, what is the win condition? How do you end a 33-game win streak against a team that seemingly doesn't make mistakes?
You have to force them out of their comfort zone entirely. You have to turn it into a shootout.
Make it chaotic.
Right. You cannot beat Arkansas by playing Arkansas football. If CSU tries to just grind it out, they lose.
Okay.
But if they use that explosive playability we saw against South Alabama...
If Titus Kramer can maintain that 80% completion rate.
Yes. And if their special teams steps up, Vince Bale is averaging 44 yards per punt return. That completely flips the field.
It turns it into a track meet.
Exactly.
But
If Moo punches first and forces Coach Parlay to play from behind, which is something he rarely ever has to do, things could get very interesting.
if Arkansas controls the tempo,
If they just hand the ball to Orlando Rich and play clean, the streak goes to 34. It's established dynasty versus the hungry challenger.
I cannot wait to watch that one.
Yeah.
But I want to shift gears now to a coach who is experiencing the exact opposite of a 33-0 streak. Coach Nate at Vanderbilt.
The almost contender.
It really feels like the theme for Vanderbilt is all gas, no brakes. They are incredibly fun to watch. They have so much firepower, but they just keep losing these big statement games.
They're 0 for 3 in big games now.
Yeah, they lost to Michigan in Week 3, and now they just lost a massive shootout to USC in Week 4. Let's talk about the difference between being explosive and actually being clutch.
Well, let's look at that Michigan game first, because I think it perfectly sets the table for their issues. Vanderbilt went up 14-0 right out of the gate.
They came out swinging.
They really did. Coach Nate had them believing they could punch up against a powerhouse.
But then the depth kicked in.
Right. Michigan, under Coach Ree, is a finished product. They didn't panic down 14. They just rotated their guys, stayed incredibly disciplined, and slowly wore Vandy down.
Gage Boone and Kofi Okiyemi combined for 6 touchdowns for Michigan.
And by the fourth quarter, Michigan was averaging nearly 10 yards per play. Vanderbilt just ran out of gas. They lacked the depth to sustain that early energy.
And then you look at Week 4 against USC. The final score was USC 50, Vanderbilt 37.
Look, if you score 37 points in a college football game, you should win, period.
That's exactly what I'm saying. The offense did its job. McGelly, Hagans, McAfee, they moved the ball, they put up big numbers, but the
The
defense,
defense was a complete turnstile.
they gave up 186 rushing yards to a single running back.
That is over 13 yards per carry. You can't even blame that on bad luck. That is a fundamental structural failure.
Bad gap integrity.
Bad gap integrity, missed tackles, getting completely blown off the line of scrimmage on third downs.
It sounds like Coach Nate has built a Ferrari engine and somehow bolted it onto a go-kart chassis.
That is the perfect analogy. He has all the star power on offense, but until he fixes those structural defensive issues, especially on third downs and in the red zone, he's just going to be chasing legitimacy.
Compare him to someone like Coach Tez at Northwestern.
Great comparison. Northwestern isn't flashy at all. They don't have that Ferrari offense.
But they're disciplined.
Incredibly disciplined. They are clean, they are opportunistic, and they simply do not beat themselves. Coach Nate has all the spark in the world, but he doesn't have any fire control yet.
So until they fix that defense, they are just destined to be the fun team that loses.
Exactly. And being fun doesn't put any trophies in the case. For a coach with Nate's ambition, that has to be beyond frustrating.
Speaking of fun matchups, we have one more preview today that I think perfectly encapsulates this whole style versus substance debate we've been having. Indiana versus North Carolina. Coach Bone versus Coach Ben.
This is a fascinating stylistic clash, and the Vegas line is currently minus 2.5 for Indiana.
Which, for those of you who don't speak gambling, essentially means it's a total coin flip. Home field usually accounts for 3 points, so Vegas actually thinks these two teams are dead, even on a neutral field.
It really is a clash of opposing philosophies. Indiana is the tortoise. Coach Bone wants structure. He wants to control the clock, use his running back, Dakota Gano, to just grind out tough yards and keep the final score in the low 30s.
They also have Tavares Cook at tight end as a huge red zone threat.
Right. They want a boring, efficient game. They want to literally strangle the clock.
And North Carolina, as we discussed with that Alabama game earlier, they want absolute chaos.
Coach Ben wants a track meet. We already talked about their explosive speed with Treadwell at quarterback and Breida averaging 20-plus yards a catch. He wants 70 plays.
He wants turnovers.
Turnovers, wild momentum swings, the whole chaotic package.
So it really comes down to structure versus speed. Who dictates the tempo?
100%. If you tune in and see Indiana putting together 12-play drives that eat 67 minutes off the clock, they are going to cover that spread.
But if you see quick strikes,
If UNC forces turnovers and breaks a few long runs, Coach Ben is going to steal another one.
it's the classic adage, speed kills, but structure stabilizes.
And in this matchup, Indiana's structure might just be the wet blanket that puts out UNC's fire, or, Breida runs past everyone for a 70-yard touchdown on the very first play. That's why we watch the games.
Exactly. So taking a step back and synthesizing all of this,
Yeah.
we've looked at the giant killer in Coach Ben. the program builder in Coach Moo, the untouchable king in Coach Parlay, and the exciting underdog who can't close the deal in Coach Nate. What is the main through line here for you?
Identity, unquestionably. The teams that win consistently, like Arkansas, Michigan, Indiana, they know exactly who they are. They have a default mode. When things get chaotic, they have a system to fall back on.
And the teams that are struggling to stabilize, like Vanderbilt or South Alabama, they panic when the pressure hits because they just don't have that foundation yet.
Precisely. Talent wins you quarters, but identity wins you games.
Here is a thought I want to leave you with because we spend so much time on this deep dive, and really just as fans in general, praising explosiveness. We love the 50-yard touchdown pass. We build our highlight shows entirely around it.
It's what puts butts in the seats.
But look at the evidence from the sources today. Look at Alabama averaging 10 yards a play and losing the game. Look at Vanderbilt scoring 37 points and losing the game. Is it possible that in modern football, we are totally undervaluing the boring, efficient 4-yard run?
That is a really profound question. I mean, a 4-yard run doesn't make SportsCenter.
No, it doesn't.
But a 4-yard run keeps your tired defense on the bench. It controls the clock. And it demoralizes the other team because they know exactly what's coming and they still can't stop it.
It's about control.
Right. Alabama and Vanderbilt proved this week that being a fireworks show is great, but fireworks burn out really fast. Sometimes you don't need fireworks, you just need a sledgehammer.
I'm sorry, overvaluing the highlight reel?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe boring is just another word for winning.
Asked Coach Parlay at Arkansas, 33-0 is a pretty boring streak, but I bet he is enjoying every second of it.
Absolutely he is.
Mm.
Well, keep an eye on those identity clashes this weekend, everybody. Watch for the sledgehammers going up against the fireworks. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Catch you next time.